contents to help us guide you through the agenda. We will talk about those more specifically in presentations to come. And that takes me down to disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. I will look first to Councillor Vasek, then Councillor Bonnegar. Councillor.
So it's just item 413, number 1, on page 16 of the packet. I'm sorry, I don't know what heading it's under. B29, CAO 2019-019, the Communitech budget reduction.
And you need to also state the reason very briefly for the pecuniary interest.
Yeah, my husband has a company that works out of Communitech, gets their support.
Due to spouse's employment, I think, will be the short form the clerk uses for that. Councillor Bonnegar?
I am going to declare a pecuniary interest for item B29, which is the Communitech budget reduction, also spousal employment.
And for the same reason, but on a different on different numbers, item B36, which is 413 sub 4, as well as similar to last week, item 5.4 sub 1, specifically capital reference 635 for the same reason as last week, spousal employment. I've got those flagged, so I'll help you navigate when we get there, which will be some time from now, I'm sure. But with that, seeing no further disclosures of pecuniary interest, I look for approval of minutes from February 4th last week, moved by Councillor Freeman, seconded by Councillor Vasek. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, Clerk's Office, for turning those around so quickly. We don't normally get minutes turned around that fast, but there's a good reason for that in this case. And that brings us to matters of budget, and we'll start with opening remarks. The agenda says I look to the Mayor. Mayor?
Well, thank you, Chair Jeff Henry. Welcome to Budget Day 2019. And I think this is really a reflection of where we were as a council 4 years ago when we engaged over 1,200 stakeholders in the community, residents, business and education leaders, City Council, of course, post-secondary students and city staff, to create a strategic plan for the community. And that's what we did. And in many ways, this first budget of ours, year one, is much of a following in that footsteps as we work towards creating a new strategic plan for this term of council. And in here, you'll see over $100 million in capital budget funding for things such as roads, sewers, city facilities, in particular, the beloved Waterloo Memorial Rec Complex and the new Adult Recreation Center and Center for all kids that will be able to use it in the future. Repurposing the Carnegie Library and everybody's favorite, the East Side Library. So that's something we're all looking forward to getting on its way today. And if we look at it, there's also a few items on the budget menu list at the end that are worthy of discussion, I think. And as we work to strike a balance between the cost and the benefit for all citizens. And today is a day that we can all work on the succinctness of our questions and comments, because it's in our hands how long we are here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. My prior role, I appreciate this council's confidence and continued confidence in the role that I play today and in every FSP day of trying to facilitate that robust discussion that we have, which the Mayor spoke to, about balancing those needs that our growing and thriving community has to continue to be successful and make sure that that success is truly shared and enjoyed by all of our citizens, along with the costs and challenges that people face as we embark on those kinds of improvements. And as I said 3 years ago, if you want to know where a council's or anyone's priorities are, looking at their budget is an excellent start. In fact, all items will begin and end through how we fund them and how we choose to prioritize them. And that's what today is going to be about. I appreciate the hard work up front of staff, not just finance staff, but indeed staff from across our organization, as they reflected on the existing 4-year community strategic plan, as they reflected on the master plans and various lists of priorities that helped infuse those discussions that staff had in delivering council a budget that they believed reflected the community's needs as has been expressed by councils and community members over a number of years, while fitting it within an envelope that is in accordance with council policy, taking a keen look at inflation. And in doing so, that culture of continuous improvement and efficiency, this budget includes $1.5 million this year in efficiencies and other matters of revenue adjustments to really reflect the fact that we can always do better next year than we did in the last year, and that that's a critical component of delivering a balanced budget that meets the community's needs. And from here, we will take the next few months to finalize this council's strategic plan, which will guide our 3-year budget. And council should know that for staff, planning for the 3-year budget will begin tomorrow because it is a substantial exercise, one that brings efficiency by doing 3 years at once, but one that is a substantial and important exercise for this council and the community. So when we thank them at the end of the day again, we should thank them in advance for all the hard work they're going to do on our and the community's behalf to get us back to budget day again a few months from now. But with that, the work is ahead of us today, so I won't hold us up further, and we'll turn it over to Ms. Patel to remind us of where we've come and what's fed in and what's before us, and guide us through how the day will proceed, adding a bit more color to the black and white table of contents.
Thank you, Chair Henry, and I'll try to be as succinct as the Mayor also mentioned. And actually, with regards to the 2020 budget, I'd say we're probably 60% of the way through already. So I must say for finances and for all operating divisions, it has been quite a challenge trying to figure out which budget we're working on, because sometimes it's in this year and sometimes it's in the other budget. So anyways, getting back to the presentation and the theme of being succinct, today is a final wrap-up day, and we are looking forward to council decision on the operating and the capital budget for 2019. My slide should move down. I'm just using the arrow key here.
I think these pictures really do capture the essence of what we're trying to do today. I think that big bridge lift, I think, was something that we've heard a lot of positive things from the community in terms of the Central Promenade location, and there's been, council already last week had a focus on youth and how we were looking at our forecast. I will turn it back to the presentation.
Thank you, Chair Henry. So the 2019 budget that is before Council, as mentioned earlier, is based on the 2015 to 2018 strategic plan. This was based on input from almost 1,200 residents on what the priorities were. And essentially, this is staff's way on delivering on Council's vision through the budget process. So in terms of what we have done to date, December 10th, you may recall, we presented the budget to Council with an overview presentation and highlights of what was in the budget. Jan 14th, 21st, and 28th, we had business plan presentations to Council by department, and this was an opportunity for councillors to be able to ask any questions on the operating and capital budget submission to the directors and the commissioners. February 4th, we presented the capital budget by department to Council, and once again, this was an opportunity for questions on the capital budget. And one of the outcomes of February 4th was an approval by councillors of the capital projects that were classified by staff as routine. And finally, what we have on the agenda today is a corporate report by the number Corp 2019-009. It covers any questions that remain from what were raised in the prior meetings by Council. So we hope that this covers and answers all the questions that were in there. Our next step, as I mentioned earlier, is approval of the 2019 operating budget, the 2019 capital budget, and approval in principle of the 9-year forecast thereafter that is in there. So page 2 of your agenda has the outline or the table of contents for how the process is going to roll out. So looking at it in broad strokes on the tax-based side, What you will see is the tax-based budget items. They are listed as number 4.4 to 4.7 on the agenda. So we will be going through that as the tax-based base budget items. Then we will be looking through and taking you through the operating impact of capital projects. So we were doing this in addition to approving the capital projects specifically at this time. So the moment you approve the operating impact, we want to make sure that Council is approving the capital budget alongside, so the two implications go hand in hand. So those are listed under 4.8 to 4.10 on the agenda. Then moving on, you'll see the service level change items. They are 4.11 to 4.12 on the agenda. And finally, the menu items. So systematically, we're going through all the components of the tax-based budget, and we will follow pretty much the same order for the enterprise items, same sequence and same process. And then moving on to the capital, you will see that we have got the 2019 capital budget routine items as confirmed by Council listed in there, followed by the 2019 non-routine projects being approved in principle, with a funding report to follow from Council. And thereafter, we will be looking for approval in principle for the nine-year forecast. And all of this information on capital will be presented by department. It is a simpler and easier way for the resolutions to move forward. And then thereafter, we have the debenture financing that is associated with the capital projects. This too requires Council approval. It's number 6 on the agenda. And finally, when we are tracking all of these decisions that they're being made by Council, we will be tracking it on the fly at the same time. And this leads us to what we calculate as our total levy or our total tax revenue in simple terms. And we will be seeking approval from Council of that total levy, as well as what the related tax increase is, which is relative to the previous year's budget. And that is the last piece on the FSP agenda, item 7 on the agenda. The budget process, as you might have seen since the last 8 weeks, it is complex, it is nuanced. There's months of work that goes behind the scenes from a staff perspective, and at the same time, we do appreciate how difficult it is for Council to absorb it within a matter of weeks to be able to make informed decisions, and we do hope that as city staff, we've been able to provide the necessary guidance and answer all the questions so that Council feels confident in being able to make the necessary decisions that they have to today. So the 2019 budget that is before Council, you will see the base budget is coming in at 1.1% increase. Operating impact of capital and growth is 0.5. The two of them together add up to 1.6% increase. Council policy requires that the combination of these two should be guided by CPIX or the inflation factor, which is known as CPIX Canada. So we are very close to that. We have another service level change, which is coming in at 0.3% for our total tax increase of 1.9%. For Council's consideration, I'd like to present some other comparator indices that are out there. So as you will see, the CPIX Canada is, as of December, is at 1.5%. The actual CPIX Canada is 1.7%. More importantly, looking at indices that are relevant to Ontario, CPI Ontario rolling average is coming in at 2.4% as of December. And CPI Ontario is coming in at 2.3%. And I point these two indices out because our neighboring municipalities are using CPI Ontario as their guide in terms of approving the budget. Most recently, City of Kitchener approved their budget, and they approved it at 2.25 on the operating side, indicating that it is lower than the inflationary factor, that being CPI Ontario. So bringing this to Council to consider in terms of reviewing the 2019 budget. And as you will see from this slide, essentially the increases that we have in the budget, this is where it is pretty much allocated. 0.79% goes towards transfers to reserves, which essentially fund capital. 0.79 goes towards parks, recreation, and community and culture. I'm having a little trouble reading the slide, the fine print. And 0.27 goes towards transportation and development services, 0.18 towards library, 0.18 towards fire rescue, 0.02% towards facility design and management, and 0.3% reduction towards civic administration, and a couple of other items that are grouped together there. So essentially, the increase that Council would consider today is all towards frontline services that have a day-to-day impact on the quality of life of residents. The increase translates into, the property tax increase that is, translates to $24 per annum for an average household, which works out to $2 per household per month. City utilities increase is very comparable at $23.65 for the city portion, which roughly again is $2 per month per household. So the total city increase that is before council today works out to $48 per annum for an average household, or $4 per month. The regional portion of the city utilities works out to $20.79 per annum for a total average increase or annual increase for an average household of $69. And so that is really what the impact is going to be on the household. This is a chart that is on your table today. It has been duly updated as of Friday. It is also in the budget book, but we've updated it with more current data. So you will see in yellow, just looking at the upper half, which is the budget approval date, you will see that City of Kitchener and City of Milton have already approved their budgets. So looking at that chart, you'll see that Kitchener is coming in at 2.25%. Cambridge has not yet approved the budget. They're at 3.7%. And Milton has their budget approved at 8.3%. So we are certainly lower than the other neighboring cities in our region and also in other outside of our region too, as far as a tax levy is concerned. Looking at utilities, you will see in the approval date, which is at the bottom of the chart, most of the utilities, most of the cities have had their utility rates approved already. The dates are outlined there. Our household impact for utilities is at 4.1%. Kitchener is at 6.3%, and Cambridge very close to us at 4.3% for an average household. Again, looking at the information using the BMA study, this is the information that we just got released by BMA just a couple of weeks ago, so we've been able to update the slides that are in the budget book. This information is based on the 2018 data from BMA. So you will see for the detached bungalow, Waterloo, annual taxes work out to $3,400 roughly per year. This is certainly lower than the average. It's lower than Kitchener, Cambridge, London, Guelph, Mississauga, all the cities out there. It is lower than most of them with respect to detached bungalow. Two-story home too, we are lower than average, coming in at $4,690, and certainly lower than Kitchener, but Cambridge is lower than us. So we are very much in the ballpark. We're actually lower than average when it comes to these two residential areas. And the reason we focus on residential is because almost 70% of our tax-based assessment comes from residential, and that's where the impact is felt the most. Looking at multi-residential high-rise, we are higher than the average, coming in at $22.46 per annum. And looking at office building, we are at $4.32 per square foot, which is also a bit higher than the average. So in some cases we're lower, some cases we're higher, but we are very much in that ballpark. And last and final, this was a slide that we had in our budget and brief document. This once again shows you the all-in cost for a household. So you can see what the local taxes are in blue. The non-local taxes, which would be the region and the education portion, is in the dark brown color. If it happens to be a single-tier municipality, as on the right side, that is Guelph and London, it is all shown in blue because it is simply local tax. They don't have a second tier there. Green is showing the local water, sewer, and storm water, and the purple is showing the non-local portion or the regional portion of water, storm water, and sanitary sewer. And the light blue is the storm water. So all-in cost is shown over there, and you can see that Waterloo is certainly lower than Kitchener, Cambridge, Guelph, and London. Milton is certainly lower than us, but we fare very well compared to the cities in our region in terms of the impact on the average household. And with that, I wrap up my overview presentation for the wrap-up day of budget, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patel. I don't see questions at this stage. I'm sure we'll have a robust day. That brings us to the staff reports that are coming forward. The first one is by Ms. Reynolds and Mr. Witzel, which was generally a very wide-ranging response to those matters that Council has raised over the course of the budget, including providing some old reports for background and other pieces. Are there any questions that councillors have arising from this report? I will say thank you for turning this around. It's very good information and very comprehensive to have, including all the memos from the various departments that you've rolled up into one package. I guess we need a motion to receive this for information. The mayor would like information. Councillor Bonagor would like to second getting information. All those in favor of receiving this report, carried. Next up, we have Regulation 284-09, Budget Expense Exclusions, prepared by Mr. Hittinga. Any questions for Mr. Hittinga on this very devilish accounting matter? Seeing none, I'll look for a mover. Moved by Councillor Bodley, second by Councillor Freeman. Seeing no questions, all those in favor? That's carried. I do hope for the day when, if we were to have budgeted for amortization expenses, they will be exceeded by those. That means we're making progress on infrastructure. Today, we still have some work to do, as we can say from that accounting exercise. That takes us to a motion to go into closed meeting. I see Councillor Bonagor, seconded by Councillor Bodley. All those in favor? That's carried. We shall return.